taken decisions. In as much as we hold the minority shares in the SPV, the majority shareholder, which is the private investor, does not have the latitude or the mandate to take those decisions without our express consent. These are things dealing with financial reporting, dealing with audit, dealing with investment plan, maintenance plan, HR issues, reinvestment. And even in the event that the senior debt is contracted by the investor, there's what we call in transaction processes, dilution of shares, that we are not doing any financial contribution. In the event they go to the capital market to raise the project financing, and the assets are not placed as collateral, they provide the security from their own balance sheet. What that would mean normally would be that the non-contributing party would dilute some of its shares. But we made sure that we deliberately, that whatever happens in the debt financing, our 20% shares remain intact. Because for the simple reason that government took the conscious decision that, look, we ran a model in Banjul, there were responsive bidders, and we could have gone with Banjul. But because of the strategic commercial fit that was put in the bidding document, we wanted to invoke that. And now it's your obligation to also take the financing risk. So because the government is not willing to make any financial contribution. So by and large, these are some of the highlights of the concession agreement. But we are hopeful. And what we have seen on the ground is there is a 6 months conditions precedent, we call it. Because before the contract becomes effective, we have to allow a 6 months gestation period to ensure that the investor fulfills certain obligations that are required to make the contract effective. But what we have seen is they have shown goodwill by committing resources to at least do the infrastructure improvement that are required in Banjul, which we can visibly see on the ground. So we are hopeful that come 10th January, when the contract becomes effective, it will be all improvement for the port of Banjul. So that generally, we stand to benefit as a country. Because if the port efficiency improves, the cost of doing business will go down. And when we buy wares from shops, it will mean less price in terms of the cost of retail goods in the market. So by and large, these are some of the main highlights. And in doing our concession transaction process, there was also a communications outreach program that we have developed. We have started principally with our staff. On 3 occasions, we call the general staff, because most times the consternation is amongst the staff that a private investor is coming. The threat of losing jobs is very primary consideration for staff. But we try to allay their fears that the operative staff, all of them are going to be transferred into the SPV under the same terms and conditions. So there will be no job. In fact, if anything, because of the enhanced infrastructure improvement and the construction of the inland logistics platform in Kauran Basse, we expect even more jobs to be created. And this river is also going to be amalgamated with the cross-river transport for ferry services, because now we have seen the prevalence of bridges all along the river. So the relevance of ferries is becoming less. So now this river revitalization project, we call it, which is also one of the 8 strategic enablers in the new NDP or Yerewa, because we believe that opening up the river would create some new socio-economic opportunities for settlements along the banks that were once very vibrant. We had the Joy Towns, we had the Bansang, all of those are up to Kemoto. You have a splatter of economic activity that surrounds the river ecosystem. And also with tourism. We want to also mix the freight transport, passenger transport also with the tourism potential, because the river remains underexploited. So these are some of the things that are very much advantageous. At the end of the day, we stand to gain as a country. On the side of the ferries, the African Development Bank, also in their support in doing the climate risk assessment, provided $20 million grant support in December 2022 to prepare activities that would add value to the main project, because they advise that it's good to expand the port infrastructure in Banjul, but there are ancillary activities which will go to add value, things like the ferry services. So the $20 million grant that was given by ABD goes to finance the acquisition of 1 new green ferry. And the second ferry is a government decision that the GPA has to pay for. So we are going for 2 ferries. And 4 other components were also financed under this grant support. This to widen and extend the Bond Road, which is the main road that leads to the port of Banjul from the Banjul Highway. And the third component is to do an integrated national transport master plan for the Ministry of Transport. And the 4th component is the technical assistance and capacity development for the Ministry of Transport. And the 5th is to mainstream gender in the project implementation, particularly targeting women folk to increase their employment opportunities and youth activities. So those are the components that ADB finance under a grant support to make sure that by the time we go into the port infrastructure, these supporting activities would add value to the main port.